On Tuesday, February 22nd, 2011, actor Nicholas Courtney died after a long battle with illness. Most of our listeners will know Nicholas Courtney from playing the role of Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart, a role he played in over 100 episodes of Doctor Who, about a dozen audio dramas, and 2 episodes of the Sarah Jane Adventures. This podcast was recorded a couple of days before his passing, but it's going out a couple of days after, and so we would be remiss if we didn't take just a moment to remember a man who is not only an iconic part of 1970s Doctor Who, but also, by all accounts, an extraordinarily sweet and kind person, as well as a stalwart friend to Doctor Who fandom. As Stephen Moffat wrote today in his tribute on the official Doctor Who website, somewhere out there, the Doctor just got a little lonelier. Rest in peace, Brigadier. I do remember what we're doing next week, though.
Yes.
We're doing The Daleks and Doctor Who and the Daleks.
That'll be fun.
As I agree with you. I don't know what I was trying to say that began with the word as, but...
Aslan.
Aslan, I agree with you. I don't usually call you Aslan, do I?
Yeah, I think that might be a first.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to previous episodes of the podcast to check to see if I've ever done that before.
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
We need an official record here.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is the Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
Now, you did indeed listen to The Horror of Glam Rock and Immortal Beloved, which are the 3rd and 4th episodes, respectively, of the first season of 8th Doctor Adventures.
Yes, I did.
That's what I was hoping for.
I like these. I like these audios.
I like them, too.
And I said to myself I was going to listen to them while doing other things, and I didn't really do that. I ended up just sort of sitting down and listening to them. And I guess I could have been more productive, but I kind of wanted to focus on them. Actually, that's not true. I guess I ate during one of them. That was about as multitasking as I got. But overall, I really liked them. They're fun little adventure type thingies, as you would expect from Doctor Who. And I just like them.
Yeah, I like them too. I think they have a sort of classic series feel to them, but they're paced very much like a new series episode.
That's true.
And in a previous episode, I think it was episode 10 of the Cloister Room, we talked about Blood of the Daleks parts 1 and 2, and we may have talked about this at the time, but these were... unlike most Big Finish productions, which are sold from their website, these are sold from their website, but were originally created to run on the radio.
Right.
And this was during the gap between Series 2 and Series 3. So these episodes were very much aimed at not just people who knew and liked the 8th Doctor and Classic Who, but some people who had only ever seen Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant as the Doctor.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was actually kind of weird because I've just been consuming media all day long. And so I started off with watching the rest of Caprica. And so it's kind of weird to transition into these, which were both just something to listen to, and also not nearly as serious as Caprica. So right. It was a nice change. And it was kind of, actually, you know what I really liked about both of these episodes is both of them featured people who have since been on Doctor Who on the show. Yeah, that's true. Which I liked. So these were made before either of them had appeared on the television show. Yeah, and, well, for the benefit of the listeners, the 3rd episode, Horror of Glam Rock, features Bernard Cribbins, and this was prior to his first appearance, which was Voyage of the Damned. Right. And I would assume this is prior to his having been cast. I would assume that this is prior to his I don't think he had been cast yet at the time.
So he didn't know that he was going to be in Doctor Who. And did you happen to listen to the little documentary thing that was at the end of each one?
I didn't listen to the documentary thing at the end of Horror of Glam Rock, but I did listen to part of the documentary thing at the end of Immortal Beloved.
Okay. Well, in that, Bernard Cribbins talks about how he would be up to appear in the TV show. I think he says that. But also he mentions, I think it's actually not true that he hadn't been in Doctor Who, because he was in Doctor Who Daleks Invasion 21, whatever it is. He was in the Doctor Who movie with Peter Cushing, one of the two.
Ah, gotcha.
Not the one that we intend to watch next week.
Gotcha. I
But
see.
the second one.
Aha.
Yeah, so even this was not his first brush with Doctor Who. Let's talk about each one in turn, starting with Horror of Glam Rock.
All right.
I have to say that this episode appealed to me because I am into that kind of music.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I mean, I like mentioning David Bowie and the what was that instrument?
The stylophone.
Yeah, I liked that mention. I thought that was kind of humorous.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it was kind of a fun episode in that regard.
And I like how they actually, all the music in the episode is very much in that style, including a version of the Doctor Who theme in that style that runs at the end.
Yeah, I liked that. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I felt like they made a lot of references to sort of glam rock and that kind of stuff, which I liked.
And the title is both a reference to glam rock and the Fourth Doctor story, The Horror of Fang Rock.
That's what I thought that was a reference to something, but I didn't know what.
Yeah, I've actually never seen that one.
Huh.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of cool.
It was, and I'm kind of amused by the idea that the Doctor is that into it, especially the Eighth Doctor, who is sort of Edwardian in the way he dresses. Like, I don't know, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I liked. I think it was actually Bernard Cribbins's his character that sort of commented on the Doctor's dress and how it was like he mentioned, I think, a wig, which I think didn't Lucy also mention that he was, or commented on how it looked like he was wearing a wig in one of the first episodes.
Yeah, in Blood of the Daleks, I believe that is true. People accuse him of wearing a wig because in the movie it actually was a wig.
Right, I seem to recall that. Yeah, that's kind of funny.
It is, and I really do. I just love the relationship between the Doctor and Lucy. So that's just fun overall here, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I like how she has no. There is no little voice inside of her head that tells her, maybe I shouldn't tell my aunt that I'm from the future.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, hey, that was fun. That was a fun sort of, actually, I found that interesting too, just because it was like such a blatant disregard for, the consequences of doing that sort of thing. And she kind of just went along with it. I actually really liked it. I was just like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's, that sorts everything out.
And that's also like the character Flo, who works at the diner, just goes along with everything, just is completely not at all fazed by any of the ridiculousness of what's going on.
Yeah, that's lots of fun.
Yeah.
It was the 70s, so.
Of course.
No.
Yeah. I liked Bernard Cribbins' character, but I feel like he sort of had a dramatic change of heart for no adequately explored reason.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's true. It was sort of sudden.
I don't know. I just overall I like the timey-wimey element with Lucy and her aunt. I like the whole aesthetic 70s element and the Tomorrow twins and all of that.
Yeah.
And I like people getting mauled by monsters in a diner. So I think overall it's just an episode that has like a lot of fun elements and uses it to tell a pretty interesting story. Like I think the part of the story that appeals to me most on a sort of character level is the character of Auntie Pat, who has who sort of aspires to be a musician but realizes through Lucy giving her an unintentional glimpse of the future that's never going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Oh, yeah, and I also liked the ending, kind of how it was a very kettle and some string kind of moment. with Lucy's MP3 player, so that was kind of cool.
It was.
I like that. So I like that kind of problem solving, where the Doctor sort of just makes a ridiculous device out of what he has on hand.
Yeah, and at the same time as it's ridiculous, though, it also kind of makes sense because they're creatures of sound.
Yeah.
And it's an MP3 player. Mm-hmm. And it all just ties in together.
It does. It works surprisingly well. And that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that might be pretty much all there is to say about it.
Probably.
Other than it features at the end a little bit of the ongoing story.
Oh, right.
Regarding who Lucy Miller is and why she's traveling with the Doctor. And
yes.
in case your memory needed refreshing, in Blood of the Daleks, she was sort of foisted upon the Doctor by the Time Lords for reasons that weren't fully explained, but it then became clear that someone was chasing after her.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I did recall that, actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's good of you. Our listeners may not have, though.
That's true.
Yeah, assuming...
we have any?
We have some. Not very many, but some.
It's good to have listeners.
Mm-hmm. But that the thing with the character who is sort of popping in and chasing after Lucy, but just missing her. That sort of builds in a kind of way that is once again kind of similar to the new series.
Oh yeah,
where there is a through line, but it's in sort of like the Russell T Davies era. The through line was not like a big deal in the story, but there would just be like this little thing that would hint at an ongoing story.
Right. Yeah. And I like that. It kind of keeps me interested, throughout the whole episodes, because I like a good Doctor Who story, but it's always nice to have kind of a reason to carry on and continue listening to the whole season, if you will.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that makes television in general sort of different now than it was at the time when Doctor Who was originally on the air. I mean, that's something that you kind of need to draw in audiences in this age of like DVDs and DVR viewing and stuff.
True.
To one extent or another.
Yeah.
I think. It's completely absent from Immortal Beloved, though.
That's true. I was waiting for some little tidbit, but then nothing came, so I was like, oh, all right. But yeah.
Anyway, want to transition to talking about that?
Sure.
So, Immortal Beloved with Ian McNeice.
Ah, yes. I liked that. I liked it. It was, let me think. I liked how it... Yes.
You liked how it... Yes.
Pretty much.
It's a very very talky story.
Yes.
I mean, these are audio dramas, so pretty much everything is talky, but a lot of characters having conversations with one another about the ethical realities of what's going on, as opposed to getting mauled by monsters in a diner and stuff.
That's true. It's very different in that regard from Glam Rock.
Yes.
But yeah.
I like the whole concept of it, too.
Yeah. It's kind of a cool... I'm trying to think of what I was thinking of when I was listening to it. I seem to recall liking... And this shouldn't be that hard, considering I just finished it like an hour ago. Yeah, I kind of liked that whole cloning thing. And I don't know. Maybe I never was really much into clones until Wheezy Waiter, and then all of a sudden I don't know. I just took off. Clones as a concept really took off for me.
I was not thinking of Wheezy Waiter when I was listening to this story, but now I am. If our listeners don't know what that is, that's a YouTube channel.
Yes.
I like the idea where things are not initially as they seem.
Yeah.
Things are not as they seem initially, rather. Where, like, the Doctor and Lucy end up in this place where you would immediately assume from the way it's presented that it's some sort of legitimately primitive society.
Yeah.
With, like, arranged marriages and things like that. And that, like, they're promised to another, so they've come up here to commit suicide in a very morbid folktale kind of way. And then there's walkie-talkies and guns.
Yeah, that was kind of, and you can sort of pull that off with an audio drama where you can't really see what's going on until, someone explains it to you. So, it runs through that kind of filter where if the characters believe things to be one way, then they are that way until you're told differently.
Right. And there's a whole, like, aesthetic to the story in terms of the music that's used and, like, the kind of performances that are given that make it feel very much like a period piece from, like, old olden days or something. It has that like feel to it, but then like they start talking about things like spaceships and cloning and mind transfers and things like that, which is fun.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I actually didn't really notice the music all that much, but yeah, it did sort of have that sort of period sort of feel to it, which is interesting.
So if you listen to the extras, you know that Paul McGann's son was in this.
Yes, I did listen to that bit.
Isn't that cute?
Oh yeah, it was adorable.
Oh, nepotism. He did a fine enough job. I mean, in a very small role.
Yeah, sure. It's fun.
Jake McGann appears again in a much later audio in series, I guess, series 4 of the Eighth Doctor dramas, playing an entirely different character. But yeah.
Interesting.
And he by that time, he's grown as an actor, matured, if you will.
I will.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting.
One of the things that this story does really well, I think, is it makes you think that one thing has happened, then pulls the rug out from under you. In terms of, like, you think that the mind transfer has occurred in this way, but then it turns out it's happened in an entirely different way.
True.
Whereas, like, the mind hasn't transferred properly, or stuff like that.
That's true.
And
It does do that.
And it sort of reminds me of, like a Shakespeare tragedy.
Huh.
Like Romeo and Juliet specifically, which is referred to in the story.
Yeah.
Characters thinking other characters are dead and then going to drastic measures and then learning the truth and then but it actually turns out happily.
Yeah. That's always nice when they take Shakespeare and make it happy.
Exactly. Kind of like the movie Hamlet 2.
Yeah.
Although actually it's not really a happy ending because it's sort of left up in the air.
That's true.
What's going to happen to this society.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You tweeted earlier today that you had just finished Caprica and you were very unhappy.
Is that what I said? I guess I did say that, didn't I?
Finished watching Caprica. My reaction? Not positive. Not in the least. Can't wait to vent about it on @the Cloister Room later today.
That was perfect. That was the exact tone that I thought when I wrote those words.
Well, what about it is it like? Did you not like the entire latter half of the season, or did you just think it was going well and then suddenly it all went sour, or did you just hate the closing montage?
There's a mixture of several things. For one, definitely the closing montage kind of I thought was a bit much, and I can see why they did it, but I just don't really like a lot of the things in it. I just don't like. Actually, several different plot lines that sort of cropped up towards the end of the season just didn't really work for me. And I think I've had time to think about it.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering whether they didn't work for you in terms of how they worked as plots or how they mesh with what was in Battlestar Galactica. Because I know that's always been a major concern for you and not at all a concern for me. And I loved the ending of Caprica. I think the last episode was my favorite episode of Caprica.
Oh, okay. That's actually what I was going to say. I think that a lot of my problems with Caprica came about because of I was trying to fit everything into what happened with Battlestar. And so a lot of the things that I dislike about Caprica, I dislike because they don't really work in terms of what I had been led to believe from watching Battlestar. And admittedly, it's been a really long time since I've seen Battlestar. Well, since I've seen Battlestar in its entirety. And so there are things that I don't really remember all that well. But just a lot of... And I mean, I guess I can't expect everything to work out as I imagined it would. But it just sort of seemed like... It seemed like a lot of the things in Caprica weren't... I don't know. I guess they weren't what I was expecting. I can say that for sure.
Now, I know that Battlestar Galactica has some degree of backstory on how the Cylons came to be, how it came about that there were humanoid Cylons, and why the Cylons believe in one god, whereas the people don't. And I'm wondering if, in your opinion, as a fan of Battlestar, if Caprica, and particularly the ending of Caprica, contradicts those things, like in a way that they're completely inconsistent, or if it just added to them in a way that you don't like.
I wouldn't say it contradicts them, because I did actually think about this. Initially, I thought it contradicted them, but I think that actually, specifically the Cylons believing in one god as opposed to many, I didn't actually give that too much thought, and I don't actually know if they say in Battlestar where they got that notion. But I kind of assumed that they got it elsewhere. I guess what I had in my mind, and I don't know if maybe I'm just forgetting this from the show, but I just sort of got the impression that they were isolated away from the 12 colonies, and they sort of just developed this monotheism by themselves.
After the Cylon War?
Yes.
Okay.
That's something I kind of assumed. I don't know if they actually say that anywhere. I guess they don't say it anywhere in Battlestar, but I don't remember anything to the contrary. And the way I understood Battlestar was that the Cylons had gotten the ability to make humanoid-looking Cylons from the 13th colony, which was... I guess it was Earth, technically.
Okay, for the benefit of the listeners who haven't been listening for a while, I don't know anything about Battlestar Galactica. And for the benefit of you, Lewis, I don't know anything about the 13th colony, aside from what's said in the season premiere of Battlestar Galactica Season 1. Or rather, the movie.
Do you want me to not spoil this for you?
No, I don't want you to spoil it, because I am going to watch Battlestar Galactica.
So you know how at the end of Caprica they have humanoid Zoe?
The Greystones have created a humanoid Zoe, yes.
I really disliked that. It feels, in Battlestar, like there's the total surprise over, oh, the Cylons look like us now. And I wanted that surprise. I wanted that to be a thing that they got elsewhere. And I mean, it's gone about in a very different way, because in Battlestar, the humanoid Cylons are completely biological. They look and feel human, and they're not really robots on the inside. That's why they're so hard to detect.
Well, I think Clarice, in her monologue at the end of the Caprica finale, addresses that by saying, right now, you're built on computer chips, but that needn't always be the case.
Okay.
So I feel like she's saying there, like, the humanoid Zoe was an intermediary form between the Toasters and the humanoid Cylons as seen in BSG.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I got that impression too. It's just that it's later revealed that the Cylons got this ability from elsewhere. They were not able to do it on their own.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what concerns me. And I mean, I guess they could have had this idea like, oh, hey, we would like human bodies. Can we please has? And then like just not be able to do it, and then they are able to get this technology from somewhere else.
Well, when I look at that closing montage, I feel like what we're seeing there is their plans for like seasons 2, 3, and 4, condensed down to the smallest possible form, just to bridge Caprica and Battlestar Galactica, not just in terms of continuity, but also like thematically.
Okay.
In terms of what they're both about.
Yeah.
About with like a capital A. And I feel like had they had the opportunity to have more seasons, they might have been able to handle that in a way that was more respectful of the fact that there already existed these explanations in Battlestar Galactica, and explained how these two different things might have been unrelated. Like, it could be that this humanoid Zoe is a dead end and has nothing to do with the humanoid Cylons in BSG.
Yeah, I suppose that throwing these things into a montage versus building them up over the course of several seasons is very different, and it would be very hard to convey in the same way. It's just that I just really thought that the humanoid thing was really just something that was introduced. I felt like in the chronology of things, it got introduced way later, and it was not present so early on in the story.
Maybe what the creators of Caprica intended was not to say that Zoe is the first humanoid Cylon. What they're trying to do is draw a thematic connection between the Greystones' desire to make this particular computer entity more and more human-like with the similar ideas that exist in Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
And that there is no actual, like, there is no heritage between the two, except a thematic heritage.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. All right, I guess I can see that. Still don't like it, but I can see it.
Well, I think overall the epilogue is like a really sloppy storytelling device.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why they had to do it.
Yeah.
It was the only way to give some kind of closure to Caprica as a whole, but the epilogue was not my favorite thing.
Yeah. Another thing that I didn't like, I guess it makes sense now that I'm thinking about it, but I still don't really like the whole Willie Adama, Bill Adama kind of thing.
Yeah, and the idea that the Willie Adama that we've been following in Caprica and assuming to be Bill Adama from Battlestar Galactica is not.
Right.
He dies, and there's another one. I don't really have strong feelings about that. Why did you dislike that?
Once again, I was looking at this from the perspective of, this is stuff that happens before Battlestar, so I was kind of trying to fit it all together. And, Willie Adama was like this little, connection I had to the reimagined series. So I could sort of say, all right, well, this is stuff that's happening in Bill Adama's childhood. What it was doing really was enriching the character of Bill Adama for me. I was sort of looking at his role in the in Battlestar, and I was looking at it sort of in the context of, so as a kid he went through all these things, and then that was sort of ripped away from me.
Yeah, I feel like there's a difference between a shocking revelation and just dishonesty.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is sort of dishonest. I will agree with that.
Yeah. I actually was looking at a few reviews of the final episode of Caprica, and it was mentioned how there were, like, clues, such as Bill Adama's eyes are blue as opposed to Willie's, which were brown. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could have fixated on that and been like, I guess that does make sense, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, I really wasn't looking all that closely. I feel like it was unfair to expect me to look that closely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wonder whether they had the idea from the beginning that this was not Bill Adama, or whether that's something they just came up with later in the writing process. Because I could see how they could sort of think, all right, we're going to tell the story of a child, Bill Adama. Then, sort of while they were writing, they realized, what I think you'll probably agree with, that's not really all that interesting. I didn't think anything about Bill Adama or about Willie Adama in Caprica was particularly interesting to me, anyway. I guess I'm not a Battlestar Galactica fan that much, but I mean, that's a boring character because he doesn't do anything. He just sort of sits around and is a little boy.
Well, that's fair.
So they sort of like, well, you know what, this isn't really working, so... And never mind, let's leave it to the Blood and Chrome people to tell their own story about who this guy was in his youth.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, I guess he really doesn't do all that much. It's just kind of the little things that he did do, or, things like that. It's sort of just... I don't know.
Well, I can imagine that when he ran into that building to save his father and uncle, I didn't think this because I had this spoiled for me, but I imagine what a viewer would probably be thinking is, so we're now seeing the beginning of the heroic Bill Adama.
Yeah.
And then he sort of dies.
I guess that would be how I would describe what I was thinking at that time.
So are you kind of hoping that, like, Blood and Chrome will forget Caprica ever existed, or are you kind of hoping that it will try to work in elements of Caprica and make it all make more sense?
I think I would like to see the latter. I would like sort of an expansion on some of the things that I didn't like, to see if I don't like them more once they're explained more, I guess. That's my hope. I remain ever hopeful that my opinion of Caprica will change.
If they do that, they're going to have to do it in a subtle way that's going to make it so that it won't bother people who didn't watch Caprica, i.e. most people. But I would like to see maybe even some of the characters appearing in some way.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
I don't know how much sense it would make for them to be appearing at their current ages, but... I mean, the Zoe avatar.
Oh, that's true.
That would make some sense.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, actually, looking at the list of characters was kind of interesting, because there are a lot of characters who played somewhat important roles and then just sort of stopped.
Like Lacey and the Soldiers of the One.
Yeah.
Who are very important right up to the second to the last episode. And play virtually no role at all. Literally no role at all in the finale, except for a cameo appearance in that montage.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with the plot.
Yeah, I think I may have liked to have seen the Cylons actually, I guess what I really wanted was to see, like, a bloodbath, where the Cylons and Lacey take over. I will admit that there were some scenes that I genuinely liked.
In the finale?
Not in the finale, but like sort of in the latter half of this season.
Oh, okay. Because, well, I found the latter half of the season and the finale especially to be among the best parts of Caprica. Like, I felt like in the finale, I mean, all the complaints I had aside about the epilogue and some of the sloppier storytelling, I feel like we had finally gotten to a point where we knew who these characters were, we knew what they wanted, we knew why they wanted those things. There was a big epic showdown. The stakes were absolutely clear, and I feel like that was something the show had always lacked. It had always been this weird sci-fi thing where they're throwing around these strange concepts without any real regard to telling a story. And I feel like the finale told a story.
Yeah, actually, I would agree with that. I think I was liking the finale up until that closing montage, and then that just, I don't know, that's all I could think about. So it might be unfair for me to say it was whatever I said it was. I guess I just said that I wasn't positive. I mean, I still think my reaction is mostly not positive. But yeah, I guess the finale actually did kind of work. Yeah, for the reasons you stated, I think that, you know, knowing people's motivations did help. That was kind of, that was good.
I didn't like the way the whole V-World, New Cap City thing wrapped up.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
What happened to Tamara?
That's a good question. She sort of disappeared, didn't she?
I completely forgot about her.
Yeah, she was kind of, like, important or some such. Well, I mean, like, Sam was going to kill her.
Right.
And then he didn't, because he got...
Well, he got kicked out of the...
Right. So nothing.
She's completely forgotten about. That avatar is not mentioned again. I don't think anything involving her was even hinted at in the closing montage thing.
Yeah, I don't remember anything. I wonder if that was like a conscious thing. Like they just like, we're not going to do anything with this character anymore. Let's just get rid of her. Well, no, I guess if they were going to get rid of her, they would like have killed her.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were going to. Huh.
Did they kill her?
I think I would have remembered that.
Yeah, me too. I don't remember anything to that effect. Oh, also, there was one other thing that I was hoping would happen by the end that never happened.
Oh?
It's been such a long time since I watched the pilot. But I'm almost 100% sure that Zoe was not a terrorist.
Yeah, she was on that train, maybe not entirely by accident, but...
She was part of that organization, and she thought she was running away to Geminon.
Yes.
She thought she and her boyfriend and Lacey, I think it was the three of them, they were going to run away to Geminon where they were going to join the Soldiers of the One.
Yes.
But then, unbeknownst to either Lacey or Zoe, the boyfriend had a bomb and blew up the train.
Right.
And once her family found out that she was a member of STO, they just assumed that she was a terrorist. And everyone else agreed, and I don't think anyone, except for Clarice, who knows that she wasn't a terrorist, is still alive.
Right.
Even the Zoe Avatar thinks that, as far as I remember.
Yeah. Huh.
So I was kind of hoping she'd be, like, vindicated in some way, because I always thought that wasn't fair.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Also, I don't know, man. It seemed like they used a lot of bombs. I mean, like, okay, they were terrorists.
What?
They were supposed to use bombs, but it kind of got old. Like, I was waiting for them to up the stakes a little bit. I mean, I guess, okay, blowing up bigger and bigger things, but, like, come on. Can't they be a little bit more original?
Like what?
I don't know. Like, not bombs.
So that's all we have to say in this episode of The Cloister Room, which is a podcast about Doctor Who and other things, as you should know because you've been listening to it. Unless you skip to the outro, which is possible because I have all the time codes in the show notes.
Even the outro?
Oh yeah, I say when the outro starts and everything.
Oh, well that's handy.
Lewis, read our show notes. Please, read our show notes. A lot of effort into those. Not really. Yeah, so you can contact us by leaving a comment on our very spam-filled blog. Have you ever looked at the comments on our blog, Lewis?
I did once or twice. I actually looked and saw that you had, in a comment, you had mentioned, actually in a reply to a comment, you talked about the spam. But I didn't see the spam, I assume because you cleared it out.
Yeah, I cleared out a lot of spam.
Something about handbags?
Oh, lots of stuff about handbags. Anyway, you can leave messages about handbags or anything, really. I mean, mostly the topics of our discussion here, but also handbags to one extent or another. Leave those at thecloisterroom.com. And you can also email us at thecloisterroom@gmail.com. How's that sound, Lewis?
It sounds wonderful.
Lewis, do you have anything to add?
Well, there's Twitter.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You can send an @reply to at the Cloister Room if that's your idea of fun.
We actually had a stealth mention of it earlier in the episode.
Oh, that's right, we did.
When I was reading your tweet contained at the Cloister Room in there. So we got another one in. So yeah. Speaking of your tweet, Lewis, if someone wanted to read that tweet, where would they go?
Well, they would go to my Twitter username, which is @MilasBelly.
Okay, and they just have to scroll down to the tweets from, what's today's date?
The 20th?
Yeah, from February 20th, 2011. And you'll see that tweet. And if you go to my Twitter username, which is T. Dickinson, so twitter.com/T. Dickinson, and scroll down to that same date, you'll see I left a little reply there.
Yeah, that's very handy.
You can also follow either or both of us.
Yeah, if you want.
And the Cloister Room. You can follow that, too.
It's always a good time.
Someday we'll run out of interesting ways to present this information. And we'll just record a generic boilerplate outro and play it after every episode.
That'll be a sad day.
It will. Let's keep it going as long as we can.
All right.
All right, so until that day, I've been Tom Dickinson.
And I've been Lewis Midas.
And goodbye.
Fare thee well.